Africans at home and throughout the diaspora. Unity is strength. We got the power.
Stop the fussing and the fighting. Now's the time to do the right thing.
We need more UNITY. Come.
Stop the fussing and the fighting. Now's the time to do the right thing.
In the spirit of Umoja, embrace with love.
That's right, embrace with love, and we need more of that, but we also need more justice, because you cannot have peace without justice. And the world is just on fire, y'all. It's on fire, but we got to put out those fires that are killing us, literally and figuratively. This is Jamala Rogers, your host of Voices from the Battlefield, and this is the place where we talk with folks who are on different battlefields. Sometimes it is an actual battlefield. Sometimes it is a virtual battlefield, and sometimes it's an artistic battlefield. So we have experienced some loss recently. One of them was our own Mayor Reggie Jones from Delwood, and that was unexpected. And so, 53 years old, he still had a lot of service to give. We also had Dolly Parton. And I know some people think, oh, she's a country singer, so she didn't have a wide appeal, but a lot of black people loved them some Dolly Parton. And it probably was her music, but it's also just who she was and what she did with her life and her money. And I always remind people that she made about $10 million off of the royalties from I Will Always Love You, which our own Whitney Houston did. And instead of like pocketing that money and buying, more cars and houses, she bought a whole complex in Nashville, the black community, so that she was investing that, and she often called it the house that Whitney built. And so she was all about crossing boundaries, marginalized communities like the LGBTQTA communities. And so she was there for us. And so that was an unexpected loss as well, because we knew that something was going on, but she appeared last week and she looked fine. So, but apparently she had some form of cancer. So we want to extend our sympathies to the families of those two people, because they made an impact on our lives and wherever we are. I do want to remind you all that we have a 34-count convicted felon in the White House, pathological liar. We have a endless war that he's taken us into. We are now, 8 months in, and our tax dollars are just going shoosh, shoosh, shoosh. And I have to keep reminding you all of that, because I still don't think you all understand that everything he does is with our money. And so that ought to make us super mad, but it also means that we need to be moved into action, because after a while, that pool is going to run dry, and he'll be gone with all the money that he's made off that office, and we'll be struggling, truly struggling. For the first time, the deficit hit $40 trillion. That's trillion with a T. And I know sometimes people don't understand what the deficit means, but when you have a credit card in your household that's been maxed out and you can't buy anything else, you can't borrow against it because there's nothing left there but a big fat ceiling, then that's just a little bit of what that means. And so we have to rein this man in. And I know sometimes I hear people say, oh, they're going to do what they're going to do. No, they are going to do what we let them do, because they can't do it without our complicity. And so we have to be energized and engaged in what's going on here. I do want to remind people that last week I said, y'all, it's going to get bad. And I've been warning you all about this because you see the tea leaves. And so what I said, start thinking about worst case scenarios. And this kind of stuff is happening all over the country. worst case scenarios for your family, for your neighborhood, for your community, for your church. And I said, let's think about what happens if your name is not on the voting polls, or if Trump closes down the voting polls. I also said, think about what happens if you don't have power and you have to navigate that. Just think about worst case scenarios and be ready. And I'd be damned if somebody didn't, after that show, said, guess what, Jamala? Gary, Indiana is without power. And guess what Gary, Indiana looks like? Gary, Indiana is predominantly black, predominantly working class. So ain't nobody coming to save. Nobody's coming to save Gary, Indiana. And I also will add to that, because this is something that you'd have to have an expanse of history to know this. In 1972, Richard Hatcher, who was the first black mayor of Gary, Indiana, convened the National Black Political Convention. He was bodacious enough to do that in his term as the first black mayor. We organized 10,000 people to come to Gary to talk about a political agenda. I believe, in my heart of hearts, that that city has been retaliated against just for that. Kind of like Haiti. Once Toussaint won, they said, we're going to make an example out of you. You will never have sovereignty. You will be struggling. This is what I feel about Gary, Indiana. So nothing's happened in Gary, Indiana. There's no federal monies coming. They've been without power now for 2 weeks. Food is spoiled. Folks can't get water. It's a mess. And then guess who else joined that recently? Memphis, Tennessee. Same thing. No power. So you all, this is not, I'm not sounding the alarm just to be mean-spirited. I'm telling us we can't be left unprepared like we don't know what these people are capable of. And I was talking to some, on a panel last week, and most of the folks were young people. And I said, I could tell by you all's youthful faces that you all probably don't remember Katrina. But us old heads remember what happened with Katrina. New Orleans did not get federal assistance for a very long time, and as a result of that, there was needless deaths and destruction there. And so let's not act like we don't know who these people are. I mean, remember Audre Lorde said, if these folks show you who they are, oh no, that was Maya Angelou said that, believe them. And I think we need to believe them. And so my role as a village mother, as a trusted messenger, is to sound the alarm for us to get ready. And so I'm still saying, get ready. If you didn't have power, if you can't vote, if you can't get to the store, if you can't do the things you normally do or have the right to do or the privilege to do, you need to start with a plan B. So I'm going to be ringing that bell from now up until the midterms election, because some of us are distracted, and so that needs to be on our radar. I'm going to introduce now somebody that you've seen before, so it's a re-welcome to the show. Ron Himes with the Black Repertory Theater is a visionary and one of the founders. I don't know if you're a co-founder, but a founder of the St. Louis Black Repertory Theater. Welcome, Ron, back to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Honored to be here.
Yeah, and I think your volume needs to be pumped up a little bit. One of the things I've been asking my guests this year, Ron, is how should we as people of African descent be celebrating the 250th anniversary of this country, given where we are in 2026, given what we've been through, and our relationship with this country didn't start in 1776. We were here 250 years before that. So we got a long run with these folks, these colonizers. And so given where we are, what we've contributed, what we've done, and what we're still struggling around, how should we be looking at this 250 years and then projecting how should we be projecting in past the 250th anniversary?
I think that, one of the things that we have to do is we have to make sure that we are still educating our community about that history, about that fact that we don't have a reason to be celebrating 250 years uh, colonial America. I think that we have so many in our community who don't know our history. And, if you don't know the history, then you can't make plans for the future. You got trouble living in the present because we don't understand the history. And, I teach history of African American theater at Washington University. And Monday was our first class. And I was going over some of, what we're going to be covering this semester. And I asked them how many of them were familiar with minstrelsy, and none of them were, right? And then the next day, all over social media, we get another Target thing, which directly is connected to minstrelsy.
And talk a little bit about the Target thing. I was going to mention that because I know everybody doesn't keep up with that. But what did Target do with their latest little product?
Well, they are already bringing in Halloween materials, Halloween merchandise. And so they brought in a costume that basically is a minstrel man costume. You know, the whole sort of Harlequin suit, the big grin, smile. And of course, Target doesn't know who greenlit it, who placed the order, who okayed the order,
Of
who put
course.
merchandise up in the store. We don't know. We don't
Yeah.
know. But, again, there's been enough fallout. There have been enough people, there are people taken down for operating in blackface like it is a costume, like it is something that we play with, like it is not a part of a hurtful image in our history. And I think that, not knowing, we would have had people buying that costume.
Yeah, and that's the point that I think we need to make, Ron, is because for your students, if they had seen that, that would have been just another thing. Oh, they're selling a black product. Maybe we should be
Right.
supporting that.
Hmm.
But if you don't know, you don't know. And so how do we educate people about these hurtful images and caricatures from the past that still are haunting us?
Right. I
Particularly
mean,
from a target who's been the target of a boycott,
right, or well, an extended boycott.
spending
And
boycott.
when you would think that, normally some people would say, "Oh, okay, it's been long enough. Let me go back." I've just really been inconvenient not going there, having to go past the Target to go somewhere else. But no, it's like it's time to dig in deeper
Yeah,
because they clearly don't have a clue, or they have a clue and don't care.
don't care, don't care.
Right. So, that's what I think we're up against. That's why, I started the class off talking about the importance of images. Young people today always want to talk about representation. I say you got to understand the power of images before you can really talk about representation. Because these negative images, these negative stereotypes that have been perpetuated since since the 1800s,
Right.
right? And are permeated through all parts of American culture and society. I told them, people didn't even notice there's a blackface Bugs Bunny cartoon where Bugs Bunny and Delma Ford, they all are in blackface singing and dancing. And as young people looking at the car, it's just a cartoon. It's like, no, that is
Harmless,
very,
laugh at
yeah,
them. Yeah,
right. It's very insidious. It's very intentional.
yeah, yeah.
And so we have to realize that, we have enough victories in this constant struggle that we've been in to celebrate. and that we need to decide what we're celebrating and understand why we are celebrating.
And I would think that that may have something to do with the founding of the St. Louis Black Repertory Theater. So talk to us about how you formulated part of this movement, and really what was the thinking back then? Because you were young, and so
Yeah.
whenever I look at like how people like thought of something as a young person and made it happen and sustained it over time, that's pretty phenomenal. And so I just want to recognize that. And for 50 years, and it ain't been no crystal stair, as they say. And so what were you thinking when you thought, oh, I want to start a Black theater in 1976?
When actually we started it before then, we incorporated the company. I incorporated the company in 1976. But prior to that, probably maybe 3, 4 years before that, as an undergraduate student at Washington University, not a theater major, but with friends who were theater majors and who were active or wanted to be active in the theater department, were finding themselves not being cast in the plays that the department was doing because they weren't doing any plays by Black playwrights, and they just couldn't figure out what to do with those students in the plays that they were doing. And so my good friends, we're hanging out, we're trying to party and have a good time, and they're bringing everybody down complaining about not being in the next play or not being in, anything this whole semester. And I'm like, look, because as you said, I'm young, I'm radical, I'm active, I've been politicized, and I tell them, look, we pay tuition. Tuition means that we should have access to the facilities. If they're not going to put you in plays, then we should start putting it on our own plays. And we started meeting and having rap sessions. You remember those, right?
Yes, I do.
So we started having these rap sessions, and some theater students would come together, some dance students, some English majors who wanted to do some writing, and we all came together. And out of these meetings, we formed this group that was then called the Phoenix Theater Troupe. And we started putting in requests, which were a lot easier to get done back then. We put in a request. We want to use the formal lounge in the women's building. We want to use Holmes Lounge. We want to use the Hotchner Studio Theater. We want to use Graham Chapel. And so we were just regularly programming. Back then, there were mostly a lot of collages of poetry, prose, and music, all very, very political. I told my students on Monday, Black theater is political. It has to be political. Everything we do is, and everything that we did was. And one of the things that I'm really proud of, I was doing some cleaning up in my home office, and I found probably the scrapbook of the first Phoenix Theater Troops. And our mission then is the same mission statement we have now. So we formed a student group because there was a void. The void persists. When we began to perform regularly on campus, then other Black student groups on other campuses began to book us. We started going to other college campuses, Black History Month, a Malcolm X Memorial, Martin Luther King Symposium. And then ultimately from other campuses, we wound up going into community places, churches and community centers, the rec centers through the Parks and Rec Department, until finally there came a time when most of those students who were part of founding the Phoenix Theater Troupe had either lost interest, graduated, matriculated, lost, but I was stuck because the phone number for the group was my phone number. And so when people still were calling, it's like it's a Malcolm X memorial coming up. It's a Martin Luther King program coming up. And people would call me.
Can you do something? Yeah.
Right. And I'd get on the phone and I'd call 5 or 6 people and say, hey, we got a show in 3 weeks. Can you rehearse? And, we'd get together and we'd put one of those collages together, depending on who called us, what the organization was, what the occasion was, what the focus of the event was going to be. We would tailor these performances. And then a few years later, I rented a hall that was on the corner of Page and Union. It was called the Victory Center, I think I remember.
Oh, yes, we remember the Victory Center.
Right. Okay. So I rented the Victory Center, put a stage in it, produced a play called The Brownsville Raid that was written by Charles Fuller, who would later write A Soldier's Play. And the last weekend of the performance, the directors from the Greeley Community Center were in the audience, and they waited to meet me after the performance and told me that they had a space that I might be interested in. I should come down to take a look at it. I, of course, ran down the next week to 23rd and St. Louis Avenue. What they showed me was the old Greeley Presbytery Church. The Presbytery had moved out of the community, but had left the community center as their missionary work. And of course, they had stripped the sanctuary, all the pews, everything were gone. And the community center was using the sanctuary as a skating rink. Kids would come there and skate after school. They said, you can have this space, and all we want you to do is to teach classes to the kids in the neighborhood. That was something we could afford.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So, right. So, it became sweat equity, right? And so we moved in into the 23rd Street Theater. We dubbed it. And I was standing on the corner with Mr. Gwynn, who was the director of the community center. I looked up and I saw the sign that said 23rd St. Louis Avenue. And I said, that's going to be the name of the theater, and this will become the Miracle on 23rd Street. And it did, and it was for 10 years. And then we had a visit from Richard Gaddis, who had been put in place to start Grand Center. And we were invited to move to Grand Center. And I told Richard that we can't move to Grand Center, man. We don't pay no rent here. And then that's the next chapter. But the impact of being able to move into that church on 23rd and St. Louis Avenue made all the difference in laying the groundwork, the foundation for the possibility of where the Black Rep could go. And I think that, at that time, there really was not another Black cultural institution that had a facility. So in a lot of ways during those days, we sort of became the Black Cultural Clearinghouse. So we had a dance company. We did dance for 6 months out the year. We did theater for the other 6 months. But during the week, because we controlled the space, we could constantly program it. So we had spoken word nights. We had cabaret nights back then. We had a couple of times we had conversations with the Husband Brothers and talked about showing Black independent films. We did all of this different kind of work until we got to the point where we decided to focus on just developing the theater company. And we did that. And we moved up from doing 3 plays in 6 months to doing like 6 plays a year, all year round. And that's where I think it was 1988, we produced our first August Wilson play.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us, we are here with Ron Himes, founder of St. Louis Black Repertory Theater, who is celebrating his 50th anniversary. And I am Jamala Rogers, your host of Voices from the Battlefield. Ron, what about the process that you use for plays? How do you pick what's going to happen in a season? And walk us through that. And then particularly with the Big 5-0, it's like a whole powerhouse kinds of things for this one. So tell us about generally what it takes to get a play, and then what was the discussion and intentionality about the 50th anniversary?
Okay, so there's a business. But I want to step back for a minute.
Okay.
Because you, like a lot of people, refer to us as the Black Repertory Theater. The name of the company is actually the Black Repertory Company.
Ah,
Because as I said, I had friends who were theater majors. I graduated with a degree in business administration. So my interest was more is as much in starting this cultural institution, but this cultural institution was a Black business for me. It was founding a Black business that was going to hopefully be able to employ Black people in theater who would be producing work that constantly uplifted our culture and celebrated our history. So that is then part of how I go about selecting the work that we do. As I said, our mission statement hasn't changed much since 1976, which starts with our mission is to heighten the social, cultural, and educational awareness of the community through creative expression from an African American perspective. That is the grounding for all the work we do. And when I talk to young people going to talk to me about starting a theater or it's like, no, you have to have a mission statement that is strong, that you can stand on, because your mission statement allows you to say, no, we don't do that.
right.
Or yes, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Why aren't you doing more playwrights? What does our mission statement say? It
Yeah.
doesn't say we're not going to do any, but it says it's just specifically what we're here to do.
Right. Right.
That is what
It's really your North Star. Yeah.
exactly. And so, each year I build lists. I just constantly make lists of plays that we've done, plays that I've read, plays that people have suggested to me, plays that people have mailed in to us, or plays that I may have seen somewhere else. And a play can stay on that list. As a matter of fact, we are opening the 50th anniversary season with The Color Purple. The Color Purple has probably been on my list 10 years. And it just never made the cut. It was like that 7-8
I'm
play.
surprised about that. Why is that?
Well,
Did you think it was overdone in other areas and probably?
I think so. But I also thought that it was big. There were periods of time, because like any other business, we've had peaks and valleys.
Yeah,
And
financially.
Right. And
Yeah.
if we're in a valley, I can't look at those guys that show that big.
Yes.
Also, it's one of those shows where, if you don't have Effie, there's no reason for you to think about doing Dreamgirls. And if you don't have a Seeley, you don't need to be thinking about doing The Color Purple.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're fortunate in that we've had some extremely talented people. The original Mr. on Broadway grew up and came out of the Black Rep, Kingsley Leggs, who was the original Mr. on Broadway, who is the Mr. that you hear on the Broadway cast album, and who will be our special guest on opening night of The Color
Wow.
Purple here.
Wow.
And so I make these lists. I look at a lot of what's going on in the community, because I also try to pick plays that are relevant in terms of what is happening in our community. Because I think that one of the things that our plays are able to do are to be a catalyst for conversation, to be a catalyst for discussion. And a lot of times I find that when we're doing work, people will have a conversation about the play, not realizing that it is actually a conversation that is very relevant and pertinent to what is happening currently in our
Absolutely.
community.
Mhm.
So if we've done a play and we have, Urban Transitions, Loose Blossoms, right? Was a play written by Ron Milner from Detroit, good buddy of Woody King Jr.'s. And Woody actually brought the play with Ron to me. And it was a play about a Black middle-class family. The father hurt his back on the job, went out on disability, and just never was able to get back on his feet. but his family had a lifestyle. His wife had a lifestyle that she wanted to continue living. And so their teenage son becomes a runner for the drug dealer. Ultimately, he moves up in the organization till he's like, one of the major sellers. And he's bringing money home. He's picked up the slack from his father who's on disability. And mom has been able to continue to live her lifestyle, so she ain't complaining too much or asking too many questions about where the money's coming from.
Sound familiar?
Exactly, right? Now, people could talk about the play and say what they should have done and what she should have done and how they should have handled it. I said, but this is happening every day
In our
in our
community.
community.
Mm-hmm.
You know the people, you
Yeah.
know the family, and you won't say anything there, but you got all the solutions after this Thursday night performance with this post-show discussion.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so it's and that has a lot to do with informing the kind of work we did. Another time we did the play Dot, which dealt with a family that was trying to, cope with the mother who was in the early stages of dementia. And so then we collaborated with the Alzheimer's Association, and we had facilitators coming in every night. That production, the demand was so rich about being able to get information and to talk about it that where we usually do one post-show discussion, we did them every night after that show.
Wow.
And 95% of the audience stayed every night
Wow.
with questions, with asking for information. I got my mother with me, and it just, so it was just not only are people coming just to be entertained, but they're getting information. And I'm hoping that it's information that people can use, that is valuable, and that can help, enrich and inform the community. So this 50th anniversary season, I tried to do a combination of that. I wanted to make sure that we did some work that we had done before that I thought was really, really important. And then I also wanted to introduce some work that we hadn't done. Boom, The Color Purple makes it in. And it's the perfect show to open the 50th anniversary season because everybody loves it so, and be with the reputation that we've built of doing musicals, I think that it doesn't really matter how many times people have seen it. People want to see the Black rep production of The Color Purple. And so they'll get to do that September the 9th through September the 27th. Then we will follow that with the Colored Museum, which is a piece that we've done twice. We did it once on St. Louis Avenue. We did it once at the Grandale Theater. And so it's probably been more than 20 years since we've done it. And as I said, because of the content of the plays that we do, the importance of the material, there's some plays like the Colored Museum, like for Colored Girls, that I think that every sort of generational cycle, we
Yeah.
need to bring it back.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
need to bring it back, and we need to let people not forget. I mean, the Color Museum, George Wolfe does such an insightful and incisive, satirization, blasting Black myths, tearing down stereotypes, and elevating and illuminating the anger that has sometimes almost consumed us. But we managed to find a way to cut through it and to survive it. Next up is a new play, Purpose, which is written by Braden Jacobs Jenkins, won the Pulitzer Prize 2 years ago. Young Black playwright, very, very important these days in the American theater, right? He is a new one of the wonder playwrights. And it is a play that deals with a Black political family. Some conversations have said that that family might be the Jackson family, not Michael's, Jesse's,
Huh.
right? So the patriarch in the family is an old civil rights leader, preacher, was a colleague of Martin's, and that circle.
Okay.
He has a son who has just gotten out of jail because he didn't go into civil rights, he went into politics. And being in politics, he fell for some politics and got busted and had to serve some time.
Oh,
Uh,
that sounds like a number of families. I'm thinking about Detroit. I'm thinking.
oh yeah, oh yeah. And so, I mean, and his wife is also convicted, but their sentence was done so because they have two small children. The judge sentenced the son, and the wife has to go in when the son gets out. So the play opens on the day that the son has gotten out and they're getting ready to have the celebration about it. But the wife is like miserable because she knows she's getting ready to have to go turn herself in.
Wow.
You got that. You got the younger son who didn't want to go into politics, didn't want to go into the ministry. As a matter of fact, dropped out of divinity school and has become a nature photographer. Totally let his father. His father doesn't even hardly talk to him. And he comes home with a friend of his who drives him home, drops him off. And she, like any of us would, this father has like been on all the posters in her school. She grew up in a Black liberation school. So his poster is all over the school. It's in her house, next to Jesus, the Kennedy brothers, Martin, all of that. But then as she winds up spending the evening with them and the cover is pulled back, she begins to see them with all their faults, all their blemishes, all their pimples and moles.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so, it deals a lot with politics, with religion, with family legacy, with who is responsible for legacy. And so I think that is going again to stimulate a lot of conversations. As you said, we've seen it.
yeah. We wear the mask, so
Right.
we got, yeah, we,
Over and over.
yeah, yeah.
And
But
then next
you
up
talked
is
about this playwright, just won a Pulitzer, and I know that sometimes people don't understand that you have to purchase the right to do these plays, and some of them
Right.
cost more than others depending on how popular you are. So talk a bit about what that means, because sometimes those things are cost prohibitive.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, to put on a play professionally, even amateurs have to get a license from one of the licensing companies that have a catalog of plays. And so there's several, Samuel French, TRW, Dramatic Publishing, depending on the play that you want, you got to find out whose catalog is in. Then you got to apply for a license. The license gives you the right to do the play, and it also prohibits anybody else from doing it in your immediate area during the term of your license. And so, yes, depending upon the popularity of the property, the popularity of the playwright determines the rate of the royalties that you have to pay. There was a time before August Wilson when for dramatic work, the license was somewhere around 5 to 6% of the box office. August blew that out the water. And August plays went up substantially so that they were like 10% of the box office. Then you start getting a lot of young playwrights who started asking for the same royalty as August Wilson. Like, first of all, August Wilson,
Right,
but if
right.
they can get the play licensed and the people who control the catalog are the ones who control the terms, so like anything else, somebody drives up the bar, raises the bar, everybody's got to go up to there.
Yeah,
And then musicals are even more expensive than dramatic plays because not only do you have to get a license for the play, you also have to get a license for the music. and you have to rent the music from the licensed people. And all that music has to be shipped to you. You got to ship it all back. And all of those are expenses that are absorbed even before you've sold your first ticket.
Yeah. I think it's important for people to know that because I think when you come to the theater, you just enjoying like the one dimension, but it's two or three, four other dimensions of it as to how it even got to the stage. And I don't think we appreciate that enough because that, in fact, means that that it costs money to do that, and sometimes even the cost of our tickets don't pay for all of that. So yeah,
Nowhere, the cost of the ticket, nowhere in the American theater does the cost of a ticket cover the expenses of the production. You just hit on something else. I mean, even before we go into rehearsal, we've got to have a facility that we can rehearse in. That is rent. What goes with rent? Utilities. So we've got electric bills, we've got water bills, we've got, all the utilities that any home or any business has. We have to have shop space, which means we got to have more square feet. We've got to have enough square footage to be able to store costumes, to store props, to store lighting equipment. But then in addition to the storage space, we've got to have workspace. So our shops, we have to be able to have the space to build the scenery, to build the costumes. Then we have to rent trucks to get the scenery and the costumes from our shops to the theater. Then we have to make sure that we have the staff. People, there's this whole thing going on in our community now where, there's a fight between, the sports commission people and the arts people about who is part of it really is about who's generating the most revenue for this community.
wow,
And people don't realize the economic impact that the arts and that theater has on our local economy.
right,
The number of people that we have to hire to operate the company year round. But then you add the number of people who we've had to hire. There are 13 people in The Color Purple. There are 10 people in the pit. Then there are 5 people on the creative team who are designing scenery, lights, costumes, sound, props. There's a director, there's a choreographer.
and you haven't mentioned that some of those actors belong to the actors equity, which
Actors
means you have to
union.
pay them union wages. So it's not like you
Exactly.
pay them anything or you say, oh, we didn't make as much money, so you only get this. You have to pay those wages. And the other thing you didn't mention is insurance.
Exactly. So we have to have insurance on the facility that we operate in. The union employees, we have to pay pension and welfare, health, pension, and welfare. The venues that we use usually require at least $1 million of coverage for us to be able to go into the theater.
Right.
So not only do we have our insurance policy at our offices and everything, we then have to get a rider for each theater that we perform in at a minimum of $1 million of coverage. So yeah, they're expenses. And so if there were not for donations and the fundraising that we do, our average ticket would easily be would need to be 2 to 3 times what it is. We just raised our ticket price $10, and it's the first time we've raised ticket prices in probably 10 years.
Wow.
But the thing that has really, really sustained us is the fact that we still have patrons from the 23rd St. Louis Avenue days. Right. We still have people who have been coming and supporting the company at whatever level they could.
Right.
And that's what has made a difference. And that's why lots of times I would tell people, we are the people's theater. Because it's not big corporations. is not major foundation funding. It's not an individual that's writing a 6 or 7 figure check. It is the people who are buying the $50 ticket, the $25 ticket on Wednesdays, the people who buy a $25 ticket and add $10 donation to that, and it's been that, there have been people, I mentioned people from St. Louis Avenue, there's some people who were still students with us on the campus who have stayed in St. Louis. And so, it's really been the community and people who have sustained the Black Rep for 50 years.
And Ron, I want to talk about how they can become sustainers, but I want you to finish out this season because it's,
Right.
it's a
So,
really nice, I think you got a couple of more
two
shows.
more, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna tell you there's something that's interesting there. So
Okay.
we just finished Purpose. The next show up is for colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. We've actually done it twice.
Yep.
One of the primary reason that I added it into this season is this is also the 50th anniversary of For Colored Girls.
Oh, wow. And then let's
And,
not forget who that
and right,
still
and
lived.
it is written by our St. Louis native,
Yeah.
Ntozake Shange.
Yeah.
And so it's not only a
All that made
celebration,
sense.
right? So that is why it is in the season again. And then we're closing the season with August Wilson's Gem of the Ocean, which is the first play in the American Century Cycle, which is set in 1904, and is the beginning, is where we see Aunt Esther for the first time on stage. And it is the play, though it was the last one that he wrote, it is the first one in the cycle. And it's going to just be a great way for us to close the 50th anniversary season.
Absolutely.
Now, the other special thing about the 50th anniversary is that Purpose and For Colored Girls will be performed at the Grandale Theater.
Ooh, okay.
And so, as part of the celebration of our 50th anniversary, excuse me, we spent 10 years on St. Louis Avenue, 20 years in Grand Center at the Grandale Theater. Then for the past 15 years or so, we've gone back to campus, which has taken us back full circle to where the company started. So we will have hit all of the spots that have been part of the Black Rep journey.
And that should be remembered, Ron, because you don't want to automatically go over there to watch you to Edison. You better be looking at where is this
Your
production
ticket,
going to
right?
be?
Right. We're going to stress that. And the other big thing, the reason for you to look at your ticket is that we've changed the curtain time this season. All plays start at 7:00.
Okay.
There are no more 8:00 curtains.
Okay.
Society is changing. People want to get into the theater early and get out earlier.
And we
So,
don't want nobody snoring toward the end of the play either.
right. And so all the curtains Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are 7 p.m. curtains.
And
the
matinee
Sunday
still the
performance
same?
stays at 3:00 on Sundays.
Okay. Wow. So that's a phenomenal lineup, really it is. When I saw it, I'm like, man, I ain't missing there one of those.
Yeah.
But tell us how people can support it, because you all have a range of different kind of ticket promotions. I am a proud sustainer, subscriber, and I want people to know that you don't have to be rich to be a subscriber. Look at me. I'm a brocade person, and I want to make sure every year that I get my subscriber ticket. So that's going to come off really the top of finances. And I think we have to think like that. How are we giving back to our community, particularly the Black institutions that need to have some perpetuity? And so I want to be a subscriber. And now you have the flex, which means I can use all my tickets at one time, and sometimes I almost have, because if people come in town, I want to take them to the Black Rep. But talk about the number of ways that people can buy tickets or be a subscriber.
Okay. So yeah, of course you can buy a single ticket, and single ticket prices, as I said, we raise single tickets. So a single ticket for an adult is $60. There is a slight discount for senior citizens, and those single tickets are $55. And a senior for us is 55 plus. So 55, you pay 55, right? And that gives you one ticket to each performance. No, that's the single ticket.
Yeah.
Then you can buy the adult subscription, which is $270, which is a $30 saving off of buying 5 single tickets. That subscription gives you exchange privileges. It gives you information before the regular public gets information. It gives you some discounts that we're going to be adding to merchandise. And more importantly, I think, which is something you hit on that I don't think people understand, is that in addition to the 5 plays that we create for the main stage, that we produce on the main stage, we produce another 2 to 3, sometimes 4 shows specifically to go into the schools, to go into the community. And the revenue that we're able to generate on the main stage, to a large extent, also helps us with the programming that we do for our education and community programs. And so I say to people a lot of times, because people will say, I don't like that. I don't like that. But you don't have to support it because you like the play or not. Another reason to support it is because, again, as you mentioned, you're supporting the institution. One of the things that we know for sure is that people don't want to live in a city that doesn't have a symphony, that doesn't have an opera company, that doesn't have a regional theater, that doesn't have an art museum. In as much as most of our communities, most of our major cities are predominantly people of color, it makes it that much more imperative and important and essential for us to have cultural institutions of color. We're fortunate in St. Louis to have the Black Rep. It is our flagship cultural institution. And if we are going to have it around for another 50 years, we have to support it. If we had the kind of support that the Black community in St. Louis is capable of giving, all the other money that we get would be gravy.
Right.
We would be constantly expanding programs. We could be having a serious conversation about purchasing our own home or building our own home, which is a conversation that after 50 years is time for us to have.
Right.
But what is essential is that people have to buy tickets, people have to make donations, people have to spread the word, people have to look at it as something that we cannot do without. I think it's beautiful, like you said, my season tickets come off the top. We could be at a point where best case scenario is that we had so many season ticket holders that the only way you could come to see a play at the Black Rep is if your mother or your grandparents passed their tickets down to you.
Legacy tickets.
Legacy tickets.
Yeah.
That we are now passing season tickets down generationally. And that family has made a commitment to make sure that as long as they are able, they're going to support this institution. The other part of being able to support the institution is, as you read these stories about these school teachers, nobody knows how that school teacher left $1 million to this program or $1 million to their alma mater. Put the Black Rep in your will.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're doing your estate planning, put the black rep in it. But when you also are looking at ways to give back to the community, ways to create opportunities for our young people, that is a reason to support the black rep more than what the plays are. And we have a number of people that we have people who renew their season tickets before we announce the season.
Yeah. So
And
here's the thing though, Ron. I hear some people say sometimes, well, I don't really like Shakespeare or I don't really like musicals. So, okay, so read what it's about and then pick that one to go to. But the other thing is still buy your season ticket and it may be somebody else in the family or friend who likes musicals. I don't know how you not like musicals, but hey, if that's
Right.
not your thing, I get it. But don't let that stop you from getting a ticket or being supportive is my point.
Right. Well, that's the thing I say all the time. There are other people who we can be sure are not necessarily big fans of 17th and 18th century classical music,
Right.
but they support the symphony.
Exactly, exactly. And so we need to make urge people, put a charge out to get a season ticket for the 50th anniversary. And
Yes.
I want you to come from me that I am personally challenging people to get a season ticket. So when you call in or you write in or you talk to Brian or whoever is on the phone, say Voices. I heard it on Voices that I'm supposed to get a season ticket. And we want to see how you all respond to that because 50 years, not only is that a milestone, but you get a chance now to say, I'm making an investment for another 50 years. So it's really important right now that we support the black rep. And in the
Right.
few minutes that we have left, Ron, I want you to talk about the impact of the sort of anti-black, anti-cultural DEI stuff that's going on and whether or not it's impacted you all, because that to me is another reason why we need to up the ante in terms of supporting
Exactly.
black
Exactly.
institutions.
So yeah, one of the other things back to tickets, let me finish up on ticket stuff. So we also have some specials. Wednesday nights are $25. We have that price because we don't want people to not be able to afford to come to the theater. And so we have a $25 ticket for all our Wednesday performances. And we also do one Wednesday performance at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's the Wednesday morning matinee for those in our community, seniors, elders who need to come in the daytime for various reasons, which we all understand in our community. They want to get in and get out. It's still daylight. They can do that on a Wednesday morning. The first Thursday of every production, we have made this year Divine Nine Night. So it is a half price ticket on the first Thursday. The $60 ticket is $30. We're in the process. We got a few more phone calls to make, but we're hoping to make the second Thursday Pride Night. And so we're trying to make sure that we've got an access point for as many portions of our community as possible. There's a $15 student ticket,
Oh, wow, okay.
right? And one of the other ways that you can help is that we have a program that Rosalind Madden, who was a longtime supporter, was a board member in the 23rd Street Days, was passed. But one of the things that she did that she's left as her legacy is she started a program called Put a Child in a Seat.
Yes,
And as I just said, a seat for a child is $15. So you can make an additional donation when you buy your ticket of $15 will ensure that a young person can see a play. And we work with a number of community organizations to give tickets away that have been sponsored through our Put a Child in a Seat program.
beautiful.
I think that certainly, yes, the assault on DEI and affirmative action and everything that was in place before someone got in place and they happened to be in the wrong place because they should be in a place where people with 34 felonies live.
Yeah,
But that it rains down. And so when you lose government funding at the federal level, it affects government funding at the state level, which affects government funding at the local level. When government funding is affected and impacted, it then has an impact on corporate funding. The one place where, there's still a little flexibility or foundations, because usually they're private, usually they're family, and unless they happen to be followers of the directives coming out of, Washington, D.C. and the White House, they can maintain their generosity. I was just at a dinner the other night, and it was just, they were honoring young professionals. And it was amazing to me the number of people who would have had a DEI title. Now their title is Director of Belonging and Inclusion.
Whatever that means.
Right, whatever that means, right? What it means is we want to keep hiring y'all, but we can't say that,
Yeah.
We want to keep having you part of our company because we know the value of you as a person, the value of you as somebody who can contribute to our bottom line.
But we don't need to be a target.
Right. But we can't say diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
So we're going to say, you now, or I now am the director of belonging. Well, I should have thought that I always belonged.
Yeah, right.
No?
Right. Wow.
I thought that, I should have always been included. But, we get that. So, yeah, it has an impact. And I think it makes it more imperative, more important for us to support our Black institutions. Because if we won't support them, why should anybody else?
Right. Wow, I am so looking forward to this 50th anniversary, and I thank people for listening. And I just want to remind people that, this is a political climate that you don't want to give up your voice, you don't want to give up your vote, you don't want to give up your pocketbook, your dollar, because these folks are on a mission. They are on a mission. And so we want to support the Black rapper. I always say, I'll see you on the battlefield. This time I'm going to say, I'll see you at the Black rapper.
I'll see you in the lot.
Thank you